Hello AP Psychology, my name is Marcel Leon Urdaneta, and my personal study is What You Expect is What You Get by Rosenthal R and S.L. Jacobson L. It's from the psychological reports of all this numbered garbled mess over here. Now, before I talk about what my study is about, I want all of you to be part of my small little experiment today. I promise, I'll be ethical. Now, for my left side of the room, you guys, the left fellas, I want all of you guys to stand up. Yeah, come on, stand up. I know it's hard. Alright, that side of the room, super intelligent, super smart. You guys go. Good job. Now, for the right half of the room, come on guys, stand up. Left side did it as well. You guys are amazing, super popular, so cool. Good job. Alright guys, sit back down. Besides trying to cheer you up, why did I compliment different halves of the room? Well, it's simple. I want to showcase the Pagmalion Effect. The left side of the room might go home and do their homework a little bit easier. The right side might get along with their friends better. All I did was give you the preconceived notion that the right side of the room is cool, the left side of the room is smart. I can finally tell you guys what this study is about. This study touches on the effects of teacher expectations on elementary classes. And even though it's elementary classes, you guys might want to listen to this because it applies to you too. During the time of this study, which is 1966, you guys remember that time, right? Most classrooms had the stereotypical notion of having teachers that treat good students with enthusiasm and attention, while bad students didn't get much attention or zing from their teacher. Of course, these teachers had their preferences for students, but they didn't realize how much those preferences would affect the students' performance. Furthermore, students began studying older subjects in newer ways. Topics such as the Civil Rights Movement changed the approach to teaching American history. Classes explaining the creation of the USA began emphasizing diversity. The struggles of Black Americans for equality were also added to school lessons, as were the experiences of Native Americans. At the time, Rosenthal, our key researcher here, wanted to explore the idea of teacher expectations in the new school culture, as new ideas were being brought into the learning environment, giving a clean slate of school culture to work with. To quote, "We are all familiar with the idea of the self-fulfilling prophecy. One way of describing this concept is to say that if we expect something to happen in a certain way, our expectations will tend to make it so." Quote from Rosenthal. From 1962 to 1999, he taught at Harvard and became the chairman of the psychological department there in 1992, and Edgar Pierce Professor of Psychology in 1995. On retiring from Harvard in 1999, he went to California and lives there to this very day. In a pre-experiment before this study, What You Expect is What You Get, Rosenthal made a study with students where he gave half the students rats that were claimed to be high intelligence, while he gave the other half the students with rats that claimed to be lower intelligence. The students with more intelligent rats had faster learning times than the less intelligent rats, even though the rats had no difference from each other. Rosenthal wanted to prove this expectancy effect outside a lab setting, so he conducted an experiment with the help of Oak School administration. All the students in grades 1 through 6 were given an IQ TOGA test near the beginning of the academic year. It was explained to the teachers that the IQ test was designed to serve as a predictor of academic blooming or spurting. In other words, teachers believed that students who scored high on the test were ready to enter a period of increased learning ability within the next year. The test, as you might guess, was a big lie. Rosenthal intentionally deceived the teachers so that the results would not be skewed, and he kept track of the experiment in control groups with the help of the school administration. Figure 1 summarizes the results of comparisons of the IQ increases for the experimental versus the control groups. As you can see, greater disparities, especially during the earlier grades, have large differences between the bloomers, which are in the striped lines, than the control children, which are represented in the black lines. Because of the disparity of IQ gains between the grades, there's a second figure that encompasses all grades. Figure 2 illustrates the percentage of children in each group who obtained increases in IQ of at least 10, 20, or 30 points, showcased in a more holistic view of how much IQ gains students received. After viewing that, the two major findings of the study are that the expectancy effect applies to real life and not just lab rats. The other major finding is that the intensity of the effect is greater with younger children than the older children groups. You might be asking, why were the older students not affected by the expectation effect as much as the younger students? Some possible explanations from the study include the following. Number 1, children may be more malleable and more susceptible to transformation. Number 2, younger students have less reputation. Teachers' expectations carry more weight earlier in life. Number 3, younger children can be more influenced by subtle and unintentional processes that teachers use to communicate performance to them. The way teachers tell children their grades and such. Number 4, teachers' communications from lower grades may differ from upper grade teachers' communication, which produced a greater communication of expectations. The study then concludes that there are potential long-lasting effects of the teacher's expectations on student performances. This goes into the fairness of the IQ test, however, since the IQ test is widely criticized for testing middle-class white ideals while leaving out other diverse groups and their ideas. A test often assumes that the test takers hold no language barrier, and that it also assumes that the context of the test is suitable and nearly the same difficulty for all test takers. Lastly, the test assumes that each individual is properly motivated to do well on the test. This brings an unfair advantage when teachers are given IQ scores in a widely diverse student roster. Another study was conducted in Chaikin, Ziegler, and Dergliga in 1974, which had teachers videotape classroom situations in which the teacher had been told there were some bright students among them. Examinations showed that those students were treated differently in subtle ways, smiling more often, making eye contact, favorable reactions. Those students are likely to enjoy school more and receive more constructive feedback from those teachers. For more real-life scenarios, Rosenthal claims that the expectancy effect can also affect courtrooms, business executives, and even healthcare. Although keep in mind the previous observation of older students being less affected by the expectancy effect. Also, fun fact, teachers refer to African American students as developmentally handicapped at higher rates than Caucasians. Not only that, but boys were also referred at much higher rates than girls. All of these teachers' expectations can carry over to multiple groups in school. Wait, that's not actually a fun fact. That's just another showcase on how these expectancies negatively impact certain groups. You see why, if left unchecked, this can seriously harm certain groups? Nevertheless, there are some critics, such as Richard Snow, questioning the findings of Rosenthal in papers such as Pagmalion and Intelligence, where he criticized the lack of controlled children for separate classrooms. Another problem I personally saw in the experiment was the borderline unethical nature of giving some kids an advantage while others experienced less progression during the experiment. To end off on a higher note, teachers' expectations on student performance has become an integral part of understanding the educational process. Rosenthal's theory of interpersonal expectancies have changed more perspectives than just schools. Rosenthal reviewed the expectancy effects, showcasing how the expectations of psychological researchers, classrooms, teachers, judges in the courtrooms, business executives, and healthcare providers can unintentionally affect the responses of the research participants, pupils, juniors, employees, and patients. To summarize, the Pagmalion Effect talks about how expectancies from others can change your own results. Students that had teachers think that they were bloomers saw greater improvement than control students. This expectancy effect affects younger students more than older students, and the expectancy effect is taught in many job areas to this day and plays an important role in today's work culture. Now, before I go, all of you are going to do amazing. I expect all of you to do insanely good on your presentations and tests. You guys can do it. Since all of you here are so smart, you guys got this. I will now fade into the background. Wait, why did I include this in the script? Furthermore, students began studying topic. What?